I was dating 3 heartthrobs at the same time. The sunny, handsome academic star, the rebellious school rebel, and the sweet, clingy junior. I didn't need time management, them all know about each other's existence. Curious how I pulled it off? Well, actually, they had a secret bet going on between them. Whoever could tame me within 3 months would win. Everyone was waiting for my downfall, but what they didn't know was that I was the one dealing the cards in this game. Playing small fish in a low-stakes pond? No fun at all. If we're going to play, let's make it high stakes. 3 months later, I held my winnings of 3 million and listened to each of them, now tamed and docile, pleading softly, "Moni, can we not break up?" Chapter 1. I became famous. Not because I had money, and not because of good grades, but because 3 of the school's hottest guys were chasing after me. The whole school was in an uproar. Some were envious, some were jealous, and others, well, they were stifling laughter, just waiting for the drama. Because these 3 didn't pursue me out of affection. It was just a bet, a wager to see who could win me over within 3 months, make me fall head over heels. And the reason they picked me? I happened to walk by at the right time. And I wasn't exactly average, just eye-catching enough to be their lucky charm. Once the bet was made, gossipers gathered fast, each one placing their own wagers. At first, I didn't want to join in on their silly little game. I thought about talking it out with them and just ending the whole thing, until I saw the messages in a group chat. 3 guys chasing her all at once? Monica must feel like she's the center of the universe. Thinking she's some kind of goddess. Ha ha ha. I can't wait to see her face when she finds out the truth. Monica's just putting on airs. When that class hunk tried to ask her out before, she acted all high and mighty. She needs to be taken down a notch. Don't be fooled by her holier-than-thou act. She's probably just dying to simp for all 3 of them in private. +1. I can totally picture her losing it after she gets dumped. Especially since it's those 3 guys. Who could resist? The chat was blowing up. Those 3 didn't say a word, as if silently approving. If I hadn't had a secret account in that group, who knows how much they'd cooked up behind my back. I usually ignored all this petty talk. But even the most patient person has their limits. I stared at the 3 pending friend requests in my main chat. My fingers tapped rhythmically on the phone screen in the empty room, echoing in the quiet. After a moment, I smirked, and one by one, I hit accept on each request. Since everyone seemed so convinced I'd be flattered to the point of groveling for them, and since these 3 loved the thrill of taming a girl to prove their charm, then I might as well gracefully join them in a grand game. If we're betting, we're going all in. Why bother with a small fish? Let's play high stakes. Chapter 2. Of the 3, I first started seeing Louise. He was the untouchable star of the finance department, the handsome, studious type. Girls flocked to him, enchanted by his cold, aloof demeanor. There's something thrilling about dragging someone so unattainable down from their pedestal. The idea alone sparks a certain kind of destructive urge. Louise's flirting style was like a slow-motion romance straight out of high school. Gentle, subtle, a quiet warmth. The way he'd casually flick his jacket. His cool profile in soft light. A guy who normally kept his distance was suddenly giving all his attention to one girl. Even the least observant would pick up on it. Friends would tease, nudging and laughing. Louise, though, just gave me a soft look and told them to quit messing around. His voice was playful. His tone lazy and affectionate. Naturally, the teasing only got louder. Impressive, he played his part well. To match his act, I blushed and looked down, my fingers brushing my cheeks. But, when we all sat down at the table, I slipped my hand under the table to meet his, brushing his fingertips. He froze for a second, instinctively glancing at me. I looked back, eyes smiling, playing along in silent flirtation. For someone as composed and proud as him, there's nothing more thrilling than the contrast between being shy in public and bold in private, right? Chapter 3. Unlike the understated Louise, Domingo, the school rebel, took a much louder approach. All I did was walk down the street, heading for some barbecue, and suddenly, I had the chance to save a guy covered in bruises, being chased. I glanced at him briefly, intending to walk away in search of my barbecue fix. But then a hand grabbed my leg from behind. Domingo looked up, face dark, and managed to squeeze out a gruff, "Help me." I couldn't help but laugh a little. These days, even the school's tough guys have it rough, but watching him grit his teeth, swallow his pride, and beg, that was pretty cute, and it made me want to mess with him even more. So, before I could stop myself, I said, "Say please, Domingo?" I had to hand it to him. He was pretty dedicated to his performance. Even after he healed, he laid it on thick, boldly bringing flowers, shameless public declarations, blatant favoritism. He was the poster child of a bee-king, brash, unfiltered, a little wild. He pulled off that bad boy falling for the right girl vibe well. With him, it's all about keeping him guessing, never giving him a clear read on what I'll do next. Chapter 4. As the young prodigy accepted early into a university, Leo's tactics were simpler, bright-eyed and innocent. He had a face made for charming people. He'd flash a sweet smile, dimple in his cheek, then call me Big Sis in that soft voice, showing off his adorable little toothy grin. "Big Sis. Your name's so pretty, it matches mine perfectly. Big Sis. Don't you want to be with me? You're so cute, I'd totally spoil you every day. Big Sis. Look at me, please. I missed you more than I did yesterday." Looking at those wide, sparkly eyes, reflecting me like a crystal-clear mirror. When a puppy-faced boy looks up at you like that, how could anyone resist? Except, inside, he was pitch black, and with innocent-looking types like him, is there anything more tempting than playing the poised older girl? One who's swept off her feet yet carefully composed, making him want to control her even more? Chapter 5. I'm not exactly a master at managing my time, but dividing time between the three? That was no problem. They naturally accommodated and even synced up with each other. All three of them knew about each other, so I didn't even need to worry about hiding anything. I just had to keep up the appearance that they were all so perfect, leaving me in emotional turmoil, unable to make a choice. They totally bought it, hiding their sneers while pretending to be oh so smitten. At first, I wasn't that great at juggling things, so my schedule was pretty packed. Louise preferred dates in libraries or coffee shops, so I'd meet him in a white dress that matched his calm vibe, with a hint of makeup. But within 10 minutes, I'd slip my hand under the table, teasing him lightly. At first, he resisted, his gaze hardening as he moved my hand away, his lips pressed tight, clearly annoyed. That's when I'd look at him with a hint of sadness. "Louise, are you interested in me, or just in the quiet, well-behaved version of me?" His response would falter, stuck, and he'd just say stiffly, "No, that's not it." I'd beam and hook my arm through his, pouring out sweet compliments without hesitation. "I knew you were the best. Louise, you're nothing like those guys who only use sweet words. You're so wonderful, Louise. I wish you'd always stay this way. Do you know why I haven't agreed to be with you, Louise? It's because you shine so brightly. I'm afraid that if you left, I'd be crushed." A stream of praises, all to say I wasn't rejecting him because I didn't like him, but because I was afraid of getting hurt. As time went on, he softened. He'd even start absent-mindedly holding my hand under the table while reading, his fingers brushing mine, and that would make me hide my smile as I rested my head on my arm, watching him. Chapter 6. Most of my nights were scheduled with Domingo. His idea of a date was interesting, if a little life-threatening. By the time I climbed off his massive motorcycle, pale as a ghost, I decided I couldn't let him keep torturing me like this. Taking advantage of my ghostly complexion, I clutched his shirt with trembling fingers, giving it a little shake. "Domingo, can we go somewhere else? Like, I don't know, a movie theater?" He glanced at my hand on his shirt, then at my face, smirking slightly. "Beg me. If you beg, I'll take you." Damn. So that's why he'd held on to that grudge, waiting for his moment of payback. I pinched my thigh, swallowing the curses on the tip of my tongue, and weakly pleaded, "Please." Satisfied, he took us somewhere else, but instead of a movie theater, he took me to a bar. Domingo wasn't exactly subtle in his actions or in the way he switched girlfriends. He wanted to win this bet but without feeling tied down. So, he pulled me into his world, flaunting it for all to see, and I had to admit, this glittering world of indulgence had a certain allure. Whether it was the flickering glow of his cigarette held between slender fingers, or the smoldering look he gave over a glass of whiskey, but I intended to shake up his world. I put on a show of barely masked fear and yanked the cigarette from his hand. He looked irritated, though he was still bound by his mission to express his affection for me. Monica, just because I like you doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. If you want to control me, maybe take a look at yourself first. Harsh words, but they couldn't hurt a stubborn girl with backbone. I let my eyes go misty, still standing strong like bamboo in the snow. I never wanted to control you, but I can't just sit by and watch you ruin yourself. Domingo paused, looking at me with a mix of embarrassment and discomfort, as if caught off guard. Come on, I'm not ruining myself. I ignored him, sticking to my role as the headstrong, angst-filled girl. You're smoking, drinking, hanging out in bars. What kind of student does that? You keep saying you like me, but you've never thought about our future together. How could I agree to be with you? There it was, another perfect excuse. Domingo rubbed his nose, looking a little guilty, though he didn't give me much satisfaction right then. But after that, he started noticeably cutting back on his bar hopping. Then one day, when he took me to see a movie, he asked, a little shyly, "Notice anything different about me today?" I was clueless until I realized that he no longer smelled like cigarettes. I held back a laugh as I figured it out. Without the tough guy filter, Domingo really was just a big softie. Chapter 7. Handling Leo was much easier. Although he was a young prodigy who'd gotten into university early, his English grades were not the best. He sweetly begged me to be his English tutor. I brushed him off a few times, then pretended to give in. Leo had special permission to live off campus. He rented an apartment near school, so after dealing with the other two, I'd head over to help him with his English. Leo was charming, his words as sweet as he was. Maybe it was his age, but everything he did was so obvious. He'd brush my hand accidentally, wrap his arms around me from behind, pretending it was unintentional. He'd tease, "Sis, do I look scary? You've been blushing since you walked in." I'd shyly look down, touching the blush I'd dabbed on in my pocket. "Kid, there's gold in books. Beauty and charm, too. You've got a long way to go before you understand the kind of beauty you're aiming for." With a bit of encouragement, Leo grew bolder in his little advances. With that face, I couldn't deny he was charming. I let him have his fun, right up until the day he tried to kiss me. I played shocked, pushing him away with a look of internal conflict. "Leo, this isn't right." I stammered, unable to finish a coherent sentence, finally grabbing my bag and fleeing as if too ashamed to look him in the eye. From his window, Leo stood watching me run, a slight mockery in his dark gaze. But once I was out of sight, the panic on my face melted away. In the soft glow of the sunset, I hummed to myself as I strolled back to the dorms. Chapter 8. Seeing that all three had taken the bait, I sent each of them the same WeChat message that evening. "Are you free tomorrow?" Just a half sentence, leaving the rest to their imagination. After sending it, I shut off my phone and enjoyed a peaceful night's sleep. The next morning, I woke up leisurely, took my time getting ready, and finally headed downstairs. Standing outside the girls' dormitory were three of the best-looking guys on campus, each waiting as if they had an appointment. People came and went at the entrance. Some were passing by for the third time already. Whatever had happened among them, I didn't know, but as I walked out, I saw each of them pretending not to know the others. The moment they saw me, Domingo took the initiative. Leaning against the shadow of a tree, he cocked his head and gave me a casual wave, signaling me to come over. But instead of responding like usual, I took a small step back, looking as though I was scared of him, glancing anxiously at the other two. That one look made Louise's normally calm expression cloud over with displeasure. Because when it comes to territory, even if a guy doesn't care deeply for you, he still doesn't want others infringing on it. Even if you're just his simp, he only wants you to be his simp, regardless of his actual feelings. It's their flaw, if you believe it. Their purpose is achieved. Luis's face remained impassive, but he wasn't one to fall behind. He reached out a hand toward me, long, graceful fingers with a casual yet elegant gesture. "Monica, come here," he said, his tone smooth and understated. Leo, though younger, was not one to be outdone. He shot me a teasing smile, his dimple showing. "Wow, I didn't know you were this popular. Monica, guess I came at the wrong time." There was a flicker of irritation in his eyes. Despite the relaxed smile, I almost laughed out loud. Didn't these three already know how popular I was? But a good performance requires commitment. So, I lowered my head, hiding the gleam of amusement in my eyes. Shaking my head, I bit my lip, pretending to be conflicted. "No, I'm not. Don't say that." There was a brief silence. All three of them looked at me with dark expressions, each unwilling to yield. If their gazes had been physical, I might have melted away like a dewdrop in the hot sun. Seeing I wasn't responding, we stood there like statues, letting the crowd gawk. Finally, Domingo, who had the shortest fuse, couldn't hold back. "Monica, you're gonna explain this to me," he barked, grabbing my arm and starting to pull me away. But he only got a few steps before someone else took hold of my other hand. Luis. His warm palm enveloped mine. Domingo turned, his gaze cold. "Let go." Luis remained still. I said, "Let go." Luis's calm face showed no reaction, but a glint of steel flashed under his thin glasses. The tension thickened in an instant, the air between them crackling. Around us, whispers buzzed like a hive of bees. "Oh my gosh. Luis and Domingo are fighting. What happened? Sis? Spill." "Word is, it's about that girl, Monica." "Huh? I thought they were just playing around. Why are they getting physical?" "I don't know, but Luis looks like a good guy. Didn't expect him to go toe-to-toe with Domingo." "What about the girl?" "The girl?" The girl was currently terrified and trembling with fear as she ran back to her dorm room to enjoy a cold slice of watermelon. As I took a refreshing bite, I looked out the window with a satisfied smile. Ah, the sky was so blue, the clouds were so pretty, and the guys downstairs? So clueless. Chapter 9. The story of the academic star and the school rebel going head-to-head for a girl spread like wildfire around campus. Their behavior and the whole direction of things had veered completely off course from the original bet. Everyone was talking about it. I lay on my bed with a face mask on, scrolling through my alternate WeChat account. The 500-member chat group was buzzing. I skimmed through a few pages. Most of the comments were opinions on the situation. Did Luis and Domingo bite off more than they could chew? Good thing I bet on Leo. Monica must have something special to get those two fighting over her. Maybe it's just an act to impress her. Good point. I agree. Watching the group's comments drift toward my planned direction, I smiled, turned off my phone, and tucked myself in. The pieces were all set, waiting for my next move. Chapter 10. The next day. On my way back to the dorm after a major class, I rounded a corner and was pulled into a building. The fading sunset couldn't reach the secluded corridor where we walked in silence. Luis led me into an empty classroom. Locking the door with his free hand, he pushed me against the wall, pinning my hands above my head with one of his own. He lifted my chin with the other, his intense gaze boring into mine. In the dim light, even the sharp edges of his profile seemed softened. "Explain." He leaned closer, his voice low and rough, demanding an answer. "Explain?" I looked up at the empty ceiling. Rumor had it that the cameras in this building were currently being replaced. Seems he'd planned this well, given the situation. What explanation could he want from me? I smirked, meeting his gaze with a look that held a hint of mischief. "Luis, since it's just the two of us, you don't have to pretend anymore." Though my hands were restrained, that didn't stop me from playing my role. "What is it you want to do to me?" I leaned in, my breath brushing his ear. "Or, do you want me to do something to you?" I bit lightly on the collar of his shirt, my teeth grazing the fabric, bringing him closer. Luis said nothing. It seemed he knew that, alone and in private, he couldn't win with words. Instead, his hand on my face tightened, but every time I showed the slightest discomfort, he'd loosen his grip immediately. like a machine being controlled by some unseen switch. So even though I was the one trapped here, I watched him struggle in silence, savoring his frustration. Finally, as if the smugness on my face was too much to bear, he just stared at me in silence for a long time, long enough for his dark eyes to swirl with unreadable emotions, leaving me guessing at his thoughts. After he left, I stood alone in the empty classroom, touching the faint bite mark on my collarbone, gazing out the window at the rising moon. Louise. My move. Checkmate. Chapter 11. The other two weren't as impatient as Louise, demanding an explanation right away. To put it bluntly, they were a bit more composed than he was. But they all shared one flaw, a trait common to many men: overconfidence. All that admiration and attention had them thinking too highly of themselves. Otherwise, these three wouldn't have made a girl's feelings the subject of a wager. Their words, just for fun or to pass the time, always carried a hint of superiority. As if their affection was some kind of gift to me. They never suspected I'd have the nerve to play them, and I was certain they'd never share their progress with each other. They had too much pride to admit defeat or compare notes, even over a bet. In their eyes, I was just a girl who got caught up in temptation, wavering between the three of them. After all, adults don't like making choices. Why not keep all three? This feeling of being the center of attention? Many girls would relish it. I admit, I did enjoy it, too. But unfortunately for them, I already knew their true intentions. Chapter 12. It was a week before Domingo reached out to me, but it wasn't directly from him. Instead, he got one of his friends to call me. Hey, Moni, Domingo's drunk and keeps calling your name. Could you come get him? Wow, how original. Send me the address. After hanging up, I checked the time. I watched another hour of my drama before casually heading to the location. By the time I arrived, Domingo looked like thunder. The lively private room was eerily quiet, the atmosphere awkward as if everyone were back in grade school, waiting for the teacher's arrival. As soon as I walked in, each person made an excuse to leave, slipping out quickly and even lining up quietly on their way out. I couldn't help but marvel. Say what you will, college students these days sure have good manners. In the blink of an eye, it was just me and Domingo in the room. He narrowed his eyes, a dark glint in them, clearly waiting for me to explain. Oh, here we go again with explanations. Without missing a beat, I clenched my hand behind my back. My eyes turned red, tears gathering, and I started sniffling pitifully. I cried like a picture-perfect tragedy. This dramatic display completely shut down Domingo's anger before it could even ignite. His intimidating stance froze, and he awkwardly tried to bark. Quit crying, will you? Wah, I cried even louder. I said, stop crying, didn't you hear me? His voice raised slightly. A waiter knocked on the door, asking if we needed assistance. Ignoring them, I continued crying. All right, stop crying, okay? I won't yell. I'm sorry, all right? I looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, sniffling, my expression that of a mistreated puppy. Domingo was completely at a loss, pacing back and forth with a hand on his head. I sniffled as I watched him. After about 10 minutes, he sighed in exasperation, finally giving in. Fine. I'm not mad at you anymore. Happy? I nodded, sniffling. So, can you tell me what happened that day? He asked, defeated. I took the tissue he handed me and wiped my face, knowing I couldn't avoid this question. Taking a deep breath, I began spinning a tale. They're just my friends. Friends? He asked, raising an eyebrow, his tone dripping with sarcasm. I pursed my lips, saying nothing, my eyes glistening with unshed tears as I stared at him. Fine, friends, whatever. He covered his face, sighing and grinding his teeth, clearly struggling to keep his composure. He did look like a rebellious bad boy showing an unusual amount of patience for one girl. But I wasn't about to be swayed. I continued softly, painting the picture I needed him to see. You never care about your future. But I can't afford that. My family background isn't as good as yours, and I don't deserve you. I can't change my background. So I've been working hard to change myself. I want to become better. You have no idea how much I've done for that. Louise has helped me a lot academically, and I'm grateful to him. Leo even offered me a tutoring job to help with expenses. But everything I'm doing, it's for you, so that one day, people can talk about you and me as equals. But you, all you care about is petty things, like fighting with Louise or clashing with Leo. You say I don't agree to be with you, but how can I, when you've never once thought about a future with me? And now, instead of supporting me, you're mad at me over something so trivial. I'm the one who deserves to be comforted here. I finished my speech, my gaze full of disappointment, ready to throw him off even more. Domingo's brain must have been on overdrive, trying to process it all. He rushed to wipe my tears with a tissue, cautiously soothing me. I'm sorry, Moni. It's my fault. I was wrong. Please don't cry. I didn't know all of this. Tell me next time, all right? If anyone looks down on you, I'll make sure they pay for it. Stifling a laugh, I smiled at him, pretending to be amused. Seeing me smile, Domingo finally seemed to relax. After sweet-talking me a bit more, he took my hand and walked me out. On the back of his motorcycle, I wrapped my arms around his slim waist, the cool night wind brushing against my face. I closed my eyes in comfort, relishing the feel of his warmth, and, in a silent whisper directed at his back, I pronounced, Domingo. Checkmate. Chapter 13. Leo, though the youngest, was by far the hardest to break through. By the time his tutoring sessions were nearly over, I still hadn't made any real progress. He kept up his teasing, playful attitude, stopping just short of any genuine commitment. Watching him, cheerfully working on problems and calling me sis with that sweet smile, I decided it was time to go all in. That night, I bought a few bottles of beer and splashed just enough on myself to smell convincingly tipsy. Then I dabbed on some liquid blush, set it carefully, and headed straight to Leo's place. As soon as he opened the door, I collapsed into his arms like a willow in the wind, all soft and helpless. Leo caught me, looking surprised. Sis, what happened to you? He looked down at my flushed, tipsy face, his usual smile absent as he frowned slightly. Sis, did you drink? With bleary eyes, I gazed up at him, pretending not to understand what he was saying, and let my fingers trace the outline of his features. Leo, yes. What is it, sis? He asked, holding my hand gently. Leo, I murmured, my voice wavering with a feigned sadness. What am I supposed to do with you? Why are you saying that, sis? Because I like you, Leo. My cheeks flushed as I let the truth slip out. Eyes locking with his, Leo paused, then coaxed gently. Then why haven't you accepted me yet? Why? Of course, because you're too wonderful. You have so many admirers. Why would you need me? You're younger than me, and you have all these amazing girls around you. I'm just afraid that I'll get attached and won't be able to let go. I sounded genuinely troubled, torn between my feelings for him and a sense of reason. The older girl, balancing attraction and restraint, her heart falling but her mind holding back. This made Leo's lips curl up, that dimple of his flashing. If that's the case, then I'll make sure I'm with you every day so you won't worry. How about that? The drunk me nodded in contentment. Leo chuckled. Will you be with me, then? Yes. He smiled, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Then make me a promise, okay? What promise? Promise that you'll always love Leo. Only Leo. I promise. Monica, will always love Leo. And only Leo. He tightened his arms around me, whispering as he held me, clearly enjoying my drunken rambling. And me, what harm was there in making a promise? Plenty of people make empty promises every day without getting struck by lightning, as if karma would pass over all those other men and hit me instead. And so, little Leo. Game over. All 3 hooks, lined and baited. This game could finally wrap up. Chapter 14. In the days that followed, I was thriving, sitting with Louise during our elective class. I'd rest my head on my hand, watching him intently, fingers playing with his under the table, enjoying the way he'd stiffen yet try to remain outwardly composed. Sometimes, We'd meet in an empty classroom, where I'd press him back in his chair, grabbing his collar as he arched his neck, letting me kiss him. Domingo, though irritated with how close I'd gotten with Louise and Leo, would quickly surrender as soon as I looked at him with tearful eyes. Sniffling as though I might cry any moment, he'd throw up his hands in defeat, saying he'd agree to anything as long as I didn't cry. In the dim light of the movie theater, I'd lean close, whispering things in his ear. Even after we left, his perpetually cocky face would still be flushed to his ears. Who would have guessed that the guy who changed girlfriends like outfits could be so easily flustered? After his tutoring sessions ended, Leo extended them under some flimsy excuse. While explaining complex grammar structures, he'd lean forward to kiss me, and I'd feign a bit of resistance before letting my arms fall weakly at my sides. And so things continued. Louise took me to a notary office to transfer the title of an apartment to my name, asking if I'd live with him after graduation. Domingo handed me his bank card, saying if I had control of his finances, I could keep him in line. Leo secretly transferred a much higher tutoring fee, asking if I'd stay a bit longer each night, until the last week of the 3-month wager. Laughter and chatter filled the school halls, and then someone posted a message on the confession wall, but instead of a love confession, it read, "Monica from Finance, 3rd year. Don't get so full of yourself, Louise. Domingo and Leo only pursued you as part of a bet. Why are you acting so high and mighty? You're nothing more than their plaything and simp. Pathetic." In one sentence, the bet was fully exposed. The very thing they wanted to hide was laid bare. And now, all 3 of them, panicked. Chapter 15. My phone was flooded with messages and missed calls. Louise, Moni, where are you? We need to talk. Domingo, some idiots spreading lies, don't believe a word of it. Leo, sis, it's all nonsense. I'd never treat you that way. Well, wasn't this interesting? They'd lie to the bitter end. I closed the app, glanced at my plane ticket, taking advantage of the upcoming national holiday. I followed through with my plans and went on a little trip. The funds came courtesy of my 3 generous donors. Of course, because from the very beginning, I was the dealer in this little game. My bet? That none of them would win. As I checked my account balance, seeing 3 million newly deposited, I couldn't help but laugh. It's true what they say, freedom is priceless. Smart people don't fall in love without love's torment. I'm free to become fabulously rich. Chapter 16. During the holiday, I turned off my usual phone number and thoroughly enjoyed my time away. I even hired a handsome guy named David as a traveling companion. We both understood that it was nothing serious. So, this bought love brought me a unique kind of pleasure. By the end of the holiday, as we returned together, David looked genuinely surprised to find that this free-spending rich girl was, in fact, a university student. I just gave him a mysterious smile, leaving it unexplained. After all, I was spending money I didn't have to earn, so there was no guilt attached. David carried my luggage, and we laughed and chatted all the way to the dorm. But as we arrived, 3 pairs of cold, unyielding eyes stared at David's hand resting on my waist. Louise's gaze was icy. Domingo's eyes flashed with hostility. And Leo's smile was nowhere to be found, replaced by a look of arrogance. Monica, where have you been? The 3 of them, somehow finding themselves on the same side, let Louise step forward as the spokesperson, demanding an answer. I didn't react, nor did I respond. Instead, I allowed David to hold me even closer, his cheerful smile adding fuel to the fire as he asked, "Moni, are these friends of yours? Funny, you never mentioned them." A perfect touch of condescension. The tension was rising. Domingo snapped first, striding forward to pull me away from David, only to be blocked by David's instinctive reaction. "Let go!" Domingo's patience was running thin, and anger blazed in his eyes. David just smiled at him. This only darkened Domingo's expression further. They'd been trying to contact me for days, to no avail, and now here I was, strolling back with another man, laughing and at ease. Domingo's voice was as cold as ice. I said, "Let go of her. Can't you understand plain words?" Standing between them, I had the strangest sense of déjà vu. So, with a faint smile. I looked Domingo square in the eyes and replied, mocking, "What? Does the young master want to start a fight?" The way I shielded David from him made Domingo do a double take, unable to believe that Monica, who adored him, was speaking like this. I ignored his incredulity and addressed all three of them with words I'd prepared long ago. "What are you here for? Where I go and what I do is none of your business." The words, delivered slowly and with a sneering edge, darkened their faces, each of them looking a bit desperate. "Moni, it's not what you think. Let me explain." Louise's voice held a rare hint of pleading. "Monica, are you really going to side with this guy?" Domingo was still caught up on David. "Sis, don't leave me. I know I messed up." Leo, young but all too adaptable. Too bad. I ignored them all. Instead, I calmly showed them screenshots from that group chat, the place where everyone gossiped, made up stories, and insulted me, including the parts where they had casually chimed in with the others, laughing along. There's a saying that a quiet mockery wounds deeper than an open insult. If I'd started shouting or causing a scene, they might have felt some relief. But I didn't. I merely waved goodbye to David, then turned and went back into my dorm, leaving behind three very pale faces. Chapter 17. The next day, I took my usual path through a less monitored hallway after class. Louise, trying to approach me like before, attempted to pull me into an embrace, only for me to step back and avoid him. He looked devastated. The once high and mighty academic star was now fumbling for words, trying to explain. "Moni, I'm sorry. I didn't know it'd end up like this. I only joined in because it seemed harmless. But my feelings for you are real. I'm sorry for keeping it from you. I was just so scared you'd misunderstand. Please, give me another chance. I'll do anything to make it up to you." His words were clumsy, anxious, desperate to make me stay, but I remained emotionless, standing there in silence, as if sentencing him without a word. His face paled even more. He tried to reach for my hand, but I gave him a cold look that made him pull back, his hand trembling slightly, seeing him so vulnerable, helpless and unsure. I took a slow breath and answered softly, "Louise, a love that started with ulterior motives? I don't need that." That conversation with Louise marked the beginning of the end of their bet. Louise's feelings toward me, perhaps, were laced with a strange need, one that only grew stronger the more I ignored him. Every day, he was there, waiting in the hallways by my classes. I passed him without a glance, no matter how pale he looked, or how his mouth opened in unspoken pleas. This change quickly became the talk of the school. The once bright and popular Louise, now seemingly brought down by a single girl, and that girl had once been the subject of a bet he'd made with friends. The irony was not lost on people, who couldn't stop speculating. Who was I, that I could not only slip out of their clutches but turn the tables so thoroughly? My reputation started spreading through campus. The peak of it came, however, thanks to Domingo and Leo. Unlike Louise, they didn't keep their pride intact. The two of them checked some details with each other privately, but I wasn't worried. They'd keep the most embarrassing parts under wraps for the sake of their own dignity. Domingo was still bitter about the guy I brought back with me. At first, he tried to use it as leverage against the screenshots I'd shown them, but when I passed by one day and saw him hugging another girl without a care, I didn't bat an eye. And that's when he started to panic. Who teaches these guys to use such tactics? Anyway, that's not how you get a girl back. There's no such thing as a marriage redemption arc here, just clueless guys with commitment issues. Domingo chased after me in a hurry, stammering explanations. "Moni, it's not what it looked like. She's just a friend helping you get back at me, right?" I cut him off, generously filling in his excuse for him. Seeing my calm acceptance, Domingo relaxed slightly. So, 3 days later, when he saw me being cozy with another guy, whom I'd recruited for help, he looked like a furious wolf, ready to throw down at a moment's notice. I watched the scene unfold, tossing a taunt his way. "He's just a friend, here to help get under your skin." Domingo froze, misinterpreting. "Moni, does that mean you still care about me?" I gave him a mocking look, letting him know he was out of his mind. Domingo just stood there, like a scolded child who couldn't find forgiveness. Things were starting to escalate. Students would give me admiring looks when they saw either Domingo or Louise waiting around the dorms or in certain hallways. But the real crescendo came when Domingo and Leo had a massive fight. A no-holds-barred fight. And in the end, Domingo lost. Everyone who saw was left in shock. Chapter 18. Of course, the cause of the fight was me. Leo, with that brilliant mind of his, had finally pieced things together. Out of the three, he alone suspected I was behind everything. Since the day I showed them those screenshots, he hadn't come to confront me. I was cautious, but I nearly fell for his trap. Out of a sense of decency, I had to go to his place to settle the final payment for tutoring. Once there, he locked me inside. Gone was the sweet smiling boy, replaced by a sinister gleam in his eyes. Sis, you've been very naughty. Didn't you make a promise? Didn't you swear I was the only one? So then, sis, what have you been doing? I'd always known there was darkness in him, but I hadn't realized he was this unhinged. When Domingo arrived to rescue me and Leo knocked him out, even preparing to take another shot at him, I freed myself from the ropes I'd already untied, and I slapped him across the face. Furious. What's wrong with you? You're way too young to be acting like some obsessive maniac. I put every ounce of strength into that slap, leaving my palm stinging and Leo stunned, his hand pressed to his cheek in shock. Ignoring him, I called an ambulance to take care of Domingo. I thought the slap might bring Leo back to reality. I was prepared for him to be the one who got away, or maybe even to seek revenge on me. But no, he really was twisted. He actually started to cry. His eyes went red, filled with a stubborn pain, like an abandoned puppy. For a moment, my heart skipped a beat. Had I really hurt him that badly? While I was still debating, he rasped, "I know I messed up. Sis, I was just scared you'd leave me. Please, don't abandon me." I couldn't help but wonder if he secretly enjoyed this. Had I known it was this simple, I'd have slapped him ages ago. Chapter 19. After all this drama with the three of them, I was the talk of the school. The guys would avoid me, giving me a wide berth. The girls, however, looked at me with admiration and curiosity, asking for advice. Some even suggested I should give a lecture on how to make 3 men completely devoted to you. From then on, whenever visitors came to campus, they'd inevitably be taken to see the local landmark. 3 tall, handsome guys, each taking turns waiting outside for the same girl to finish class. People would wonder how I managed it. Did I have some time management superpower? How did the 3 of them coexist so harmoniously? Because this was a custom-made, high-stakes game I designed for them. Anytime one of them showed signs of weakening, I'd feed him another line to keep him hooked. A little attention here, a little distance there, keeping them wondering what they'd done wrong. From the start, I'd planted the seed of guilt within each of them, reminding them that I'd only stuck around because of my lingering feelings. They should be grateful, not confrontational. Someone might ask, what if they all found out? But really, does it look like they're unaware? With rivals in the mix, there's always competition. None of them truly trusts the others, and none of them wants to be left out. Besides, even if they knew, what difference would it make? It's not like they'd admit to losing at their own game and having it backfire on them. Chapter 20. By my final year of college, everyone was used to this strange arrangement, and I was thriving. Breakfast delivered to my door, umbrellas on rainy days. No more random guys pestering me, only to turn on me if I rejected them. In their way, these 3 kept me well protected, but I never forgave any of them, nor did I promise any of them a future. I'd occasionally give them a taste of affection, only to pull away again. In a university, I'd become the queen of heartbreak. Even after graduating and moving on to the workplace, I'd successfully brought this lifestyle along. I had rides to and from work, daily deliveries of flowers and treats. People openly admired me, while their whispers behind my back were all the same. But I didn't care. I continued living by my 3 golden rules. No responsibility, no initiation, no rejection. Some disapproved, wondering why I kept them hooked for years after getting my revenge. I'd just laugh when they made me the subject of their bet. Where was the outrage? The sympathy? Oh, so when it's a woman being toxic, suddenly it's a problem? If anything, people should thank me. I'm doing them a favor by keeping 3 men like that busy. Isn't that public service? People often asked where I'd learned my brilliant acting skills. Honestly, I wouldn't call it acting. Just using their own tactics against them. Take away the personal feelings. And don't these tricks look familiar? These are the same old lines that some guys use on girls. I've simply mastered the art. As long as you love yourself more, you'll never fall into the trap of a toxic romance. After all, a bad woman isn't made in a day. It's just that after encountering enough bad men, she learns all their tricks. May all women out there stay clear-headed, rational, independent, and free. And when drawn to someone's light, may they always keep their own confidence burning bright.